In this video, I'm going to be going through tips and tricks that you can use in gameplay in NBA Infinite. So whether you are a beginner or you've been playing the game for a while, hopefully you'll find something helpful in this video. But before we get started, this video is in partnership with the Courtside Creators program. If you guys want to go check out the program and potentially join yourself, I'll leave a link to it in the description down below. So the very first thing we're going to take a look at is shooting. Now, as you can see, I've loaded up the practice mode with Stephen Curry over here. And what you want to do when you're shooting is hold down the shoot button and you'll notice it comes up with that little bar. Now, if you go ahead and get it right on the blue, it's going to give you that sort of perfect release, which increase the chances and the likelihood of that shot going in. If it's on the orange, that will slightly increase that chances of it going in. You can see we just missed there. And then on the red, it's not really going to help you get that shot in, and it's going to be less likely in order to go in. Now, of course, you can just do a regular standing shot over there. However, you can also make some off-balance shots. So whether you're sort of driving in to one side, you can hit the shoot button, and these will be a lot harder to go ahead and make, but they can give you a little bit more separation between you and your opponent. Now, also the shot button can be used as a joystick. You can see if I move it slightly to the back and to the left, we get that sort of step back animation to again increase the space between you and your opponent and get a more wide open shot. You can also do that by going to the side over there, as you can see, giving yourself a lot of variations with that step back move. Now, obviously different players will have different ways of doing the step back, and some players will be better suited to it than others, such as James Harden. Steph Curry is pretty good at getting those step backs made, so is Donovan Mitchell. Those are going to be great at getting your separation between you and the defender. However, they are slightly more tricky to knock down. And also you'll notice as I take a shot over here, it's going to say that I'm wide open because there's no one on me. And of course, if you are wide open, you're a lot more likely to get your shots made. I've seen a lot of people pass up some wide open shots that they probably should have taken in 3v3 matches, because you are very likely, no matter what player you're using, to get the shots, unless you're all the way back at the half court line. But as long as you're in a decent spot, you've got wide open looks, you should be trying to take those shots and trying to make them. Now, as you'll notice on the screen, I have got the heat map turned on. This will tell me where a specific player is particularly good at knocking down shots. So you can see Curry is pretty good around the 3-point arc as expected. He's also decent in the mid-range spots over here. You'll notice if I use, say, Aaron Gordon in the match, his heat map will be a little bit different, favoring different positions on the court and showing me where he is most likely to be able to knock down his shots. To be able to turn this on, all you have to do is head over into the settings, scroll down a little bit, and just turn on heat map switch. This will be able to be used in any game mode, whether it be Dynasty, 3v3 ranked, or even 1v1, to show you exactly where that player is specifically good at knocking down shots. And while we're in the settings page, you can also change where your buttons appear. To do this, you just need to simply hit custom UI and this screen will appear. You can basically set it to have your on-ball offense, defense, off-ball, or off-ball offense. You can change all of the screens. You can change the button sizes depending on which ones you are selecting. So you can see you can increase post, you can switch them around a little bit. You can put them basically wherever you want to on the screen if you aren't liking the controls, or you want to try and switch things up a little bit so you can play a little bit differently. But now on to crossovers, and these are great again at getting that separation between you and your opponent. Now, some players can move a lot quicker than other ones. If you take, for example, Ja Morant over here, you can go ahead and take a look at his speed, which is 717. If we go ahead and compare that to, say, this Julius Randle card, we go into attributes, you can see that difference in speed is quite a lot. In fact, there's a 209 difference between Ja Morant's speed and, of course, Julius Randle's speed. And we can even change that to Steph Curry, and even Steph Curry is a little bit of a lower speed than that Ja Morant. Now, some people do say that the player moves are a little bit sluggish, but if you've got a really quick player, then they are great at getting that little bit of space between you and your opponent to help you get some more shots off. Some players will also have the acceleration master skill, which is really useful at getting past defenders. You can see it will only become activated when your speed attribute is 750 or greater. So players like Aaron Gordon, Donovan Mitchell, just to name a few, do have this ability, and it makes it really easy to just get that extra boost of speed to go around your man and go in for a dunk, a layup, or even a shot. And speaking of those specific attributes, whenever you get a brand new player, it's important to take a look at their card itself. If we take Giannis as an example, you can see each player will have its own exclusive move. So Giannis is a Euro step dunk. It's also got some skill details as well. So Giannis has got unstoppable, which means he can more easily dunk and avoid getting blocked. They will also have different core skills and core moves, and you can take a look and upgrade all of these skills, and it's a really good way at getting used to a player just as soon soon as you've got them, you can then straight away go into a practice mode and see exactly how you can use their ability in a game. As you can see over here, it's showing me exactly how I can go ahead and do the Euro step dunk with this Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's giving me that tutorial. Then I can go ahead and practice myself by simply dragging the joystick forward and then the joystick for the shoot button forward, and then I should be able to get that Euro step dunk. So that is a great way of being able to master how you go ahead and use every single player, because each player is different with what skills they've got and abilities, and being able to master them will help you get through the ranks in 3v3 or whatever game mode you are playing. Now, when it comes to rebounding, timing is key. What you'll want to do is whenever the ball is actually shining yellow, you will notice it has that sort of yellow circle around it. That is the best time in order for you to jump up and try and get the rebound. You can practice this in the practice mode with whatever player you want. Of course, the higher the rebound rating on a player, the more likely they will be able to get it above other players, and some players can even do a putback dunk. I've noticed Joel Embiid and of course Aaron Gordon both do this in a game, which makes for a really good putback shot to try and get those extra 2 points as quickly as possible. So this works best for big mans in particular, and make sure you're just sort of sitting around the rim, getting into a good spot to anticipate the rebound, and then maybe dish it out to a guard who might be wide open as everyone is trying to get the rebound, because the amount of times I've managed to get a rebound, find say a shooting guard or a point guard who is completely wide open, they can knock down an easy 3-pointer or a 2-pointer and get some points on the board. Now, dunks are really good in the game. They're a pretty much guaranteed way of making a shot. It's very tough to block some of the dunks, and the range of the dunk area does kind of depend on the player itself. Obviously, you want to be driving in towards the basket. The closer you are to the basket, the more open it is, the more likely a dunk will be able to be pulled off. And of course, depending on the player, some players will have more dunk moves or different dunk moves than other players. However, if it is a guarded situation, it is fairly difficult to get a dunk off, and it may result in you going in for a layup instead. But then on the flip side, some players who have really high dunk ratings, such as Gordon, LeBron, and Giannis as well, they can still dunk even when there are defenders in that fan-shaped area. So again, it comes down to you knowing your own players' abilities and what they are able to do and what they're not able to do. However, with every single player, when they've got that little arrow showing up for them right at the front, that's when they are more likely going to go in for a dunk. Now, this can sometimes change if your opponent is coming towards you and trying to stop you from getting that dunk. However, it's more than likely going to result in a dunk. And of course, as I showed with Giannis, he can do that Euro step dunk, and that is exclusive to that Giannis Antetokounmpo card. So different players have their own special dunks that they are able to pull off. Whilst this game is primarily about offense, defense can really help you in getting stops, which ultimately gets you to winning the games. And using the defensive button helps you get closer to a player, and it makes them really hard to actually be able to get a shot off. You'll notice each player has a little fan in front of them, and as that goes red, that means you are making it very contested for your opponent. And as you can see, that can lead to them having to take heavily contested shots, which are very hard in order to make. However, if you were just simply standing away from them, that leads to a wide open look for them as they aren't challenged. So trying to keep that zone being red is really good when you're in game, just to keep it being heavily contested as a shot for them to try and take. Using the defense button can basically man mark them throughout the game, and you don't have to necessarily use this, but it is great at just sticking to your opponent and making sure they're guarded at all times. Now, screens can be very hard for you to avoid in the game, and when you get screened very well, it does sort of leave you a little bit stuck for a couple of seconds before you can make another move. Now, to get around some of the screens, you can just simply not always use the defensive button, and you can switch to using the joystick instead, just so you can try and anticipate those screens and then maybe go around them. A lot of them occur straight away as soon as your opponent has got the ball, where they try and screen you from both sides. So trying to anticipate that can help you run around that a little bit in order to stop that affecting your play. You can then also use the quick chase button to catch back up to your opponent if you have, say, been screened, or you can try and switch who you're guarding with a teammate so that they can guard the person who you were meant to guard and you can guard the person who is screening you instead. However, that does require a little bit of communication between the two of you in order to make that switch, but it can be very useful to use in a game. Now, stealing is kind of difficult in this game. However, there are a couple of pointers you can use to help you try and get those steals. The best time to try and get a steal is when the player has been dribbling for a while or tried some crossover moves. They will get a sort of handshake icon next to their player name. This is probably the best time in order to get the steal off them. What you have to do is press the steal button and time it right and be positioned sort of in front of them in order to try and get the ball often. You can then try and dive to save the ball if it is, say, rolling off all over the pace, just so you can get the ball and then try and go in for a shot yourself. And the very last tip in this video is going to be blocking. Blocking is again fairly difficult to do. You have to time it right and be in front of the opponent. You can block people whether they're just taking up a regular shot or whether they're going in for a layup, sometimes even a dunk, depending on how good the player's dunk rating is. But as with steals and rebounds, it is really important to get that timing nailed, because without it, you won't get the block at all. Now, of course, different players will also help with this, because some players do have higher block rating than others. For example, if we take a look at, say, Brook Lopez, he is fairly easy to get in terms of a player because he isn't that high overall, and he is just a rare player as well. However, if you look at his stats, I've got him at rank 3 at the moment, and his block is 739. If you say compare that to the legendary Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is 87 overall, you go down to attributes, you can see Brook Lopez's block is actually still better than that Antetokounmpo, and this Antetokounmpo is a rank 3 legendary. So it's finding those gems of players that have really high block ratings that are going to be really useful for you in the game. You can see Embiid as well has got a very high block rating. Of course, that's a rank 3 legendary. A rank 1 legendary Embiid also still does have a block rating above 600. Giannis does as well if he is ranked 1. And it's all about finding those cards that do have those high block ratings that does give you those opportunities to potentially get them more often than not. Karl-Anthony Towns is also great as well. Isaacs, I've heard, is decent at getting blocks, but all of it comes down to the timing and, of course, where you're positioned in relation to your opponent. So hopefully all of those 10 tips will help you out in gameplay. I'll try and have some other videos out in terms of players to rank up, making gold, diamonds, and other tips and tricks when it comes to the game. Again, massive shout out to the Courtside creators. If you want to go ahead and take a look at the program, I'll leave a link, as I mentioned earlier, in the description down below. But if you want to go check out any other tips and tricks I have made so far, go check out the playlist in the bottom left hand corner, and I'll see you guys in those videos. Peace.